Welcome back to another episode of the Hunt, Fish, Live podcast. This week I'm going to go over a recent ice fishing trip and we're going to talk about trail cameras in the off season. Let's get into it. Every year, my wife and I usually take a day off during the winter and go ice fishing during the week. We bring our daughter to daycare and have a free day to ourselves. We call it our ice fishing day date. This year, we headed out to a lake that we have never ice fished before. I had ice fished, or not ice fished it, I fished it during bass season a couple years ago in a tournament and saw some huge perch that were caught for the critter pot, and we saw some huge perch under the water swimming around. So my first inclination was, let's go fish that under the ice or on the ice. So we got a good start, early start. We made it there probably by 8:30, 9 o'clock or so, and it was windy that day, kind of warm, but the wind took the warmth right out of the air. It was decently cold. Our holes were kind of freezing up too. We had never been on this body of water to ice fish, and I've only been there one other time, like I said, during a bass tournament. So we're basically learning the lake from scratch. I had no idea what to look for as far as depth goes or anything like that. I have the Omnia fishing app, and that has depth maps of lakes around the popular lakes or the public lakes here, at least in Michigan. And so I opened that up as we're walking out and looked for a pretty good drop off, something decently close. We weren't sure on ice thickness or not. So apparently this lake is the last to freeze, that we found out from talking to a guy that lived on the lake. So we found a point, an underwater point, off of a shallow flat going down to the deep hole. We were fishing. We found we started in 5 foot of water on top, and we weren't marking anything on our Vexilars, so we moved out a little bit, and we ended up we weren't even fishing. Wow, we're probably 10 yards away from where we started, and it was already almost 20 feet deep. So we fished that drop off line, and we started out with just using some 3mm tungsten with spikes on it for bait, and we marked fish the whole time we were there. We just couldn't get them to bite, and I don't know if it was because of the weather system moving in. It was windy, and it was supposed to get more windy as the day went on, and warmer. So it was blowing in a warm front almost. We had a south wind, and we were on the north end of this lake, and it was pretty brutal for a little bit. I ended up setting out my slammer that I learned to make from my friends up north in Sheboygan. It's essentially just an old schooly rod and reel with let's see, it's got a little bell sinker on the bottom that you set on the bottom of the lake, and then you have a leader probably a foot and a half off the bottom, and I have a hook tied on like you would a drop shot rig, but with more of a leader coming off of that, and I just have a gold hook on and I put a minnow. That's what I typically use for perch fishing if I know that I'm actually going to be perch fishing. When a fish takes it, you have the rod balancing on a piece of wood or you could have grooved in a piece of wood, or I have a piece of PVC that I stick in the snow, and it's got holes for a rod, like a screw or a dowel on it, that I have going through the handle of the rod, the fishing rod, and I put that in there and I balance it so um, the rod tip is up and it's tight, and when a fish bites it, it tips it down. People call them tip downs. I call them slammers. Tried and true method for me as far as perch fishing goes. So I figured that they were perch that we were marking on the bottom, and so I set that out. Uh, ended up using. I switched through colors trying to get something to bite on my jigs, and I found something that worked. It was blue and chartreuse with tiger stripes and a little bit of pink on it. It's a color that I've never used, and I was just trying to get something down there that they something different down there that they might want. Uh, all of a sudden, I set that down in literally 2 seconds after it was down where I needed it to be. This fish shot up from the bottom and smashed it. It was awesome. Fish on, and I'm freaking out because this thing feels huge, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a bass. I don't know if it's a perch. I don't know if it's a pike. I don't know if it's crappie. I get it up to the hole, and it comes flying out faster than I expected. I didn't get my transducer out of the hole fast enough, and it popped off, head out of the water and everything, and I went elbow deep, elbow deep in the hole with my arm trying to grab the fish. So I was like, I can't let this thing go. This is what we came here for, giant perch, and it ended up getting away. All I got out of it was a soaking wet arm. But that's all right. My wife had a similar experience. Fish got off at the hole. I don't know if we were using too small of hooks because we were only using 4mm tungsten jigs, and those hooks are pretty small. I don't know if we should have been using fives or something with a bigger hook. I don't know, but we only had those two fish on. We fished for a few hours and headed to a different lake for a little redemption bite, and she ended up bringing home 10 bluegill or so from this other spot we went to. I didn't bring anything home. I caught a few small ones, but by the time the fish started biting, it was almost time to go, and I was kind of over it. The wind was picking up, and it was pretty nasty out. So we ended up packing up and heading home for the afternoon. We had a ton of fun. It's always fun fishing with her, especially during the week when we can have some time to ourselves and do what we want and fish where we want and fish how we want without being bothered. And it's always fun. I look forward to our ice fishing day every single year. It's one of my favorite days of the winter, for sure. Coming up, we have an ice fishing tournament up in northern Michigan that we always fish. Well, we fish it when you're able to ice fish. Last year we didn't get a chance to because the weather was so warm and they didn't have any ice in the area. But this year it's game on. I guess there's almost a foot of ice on the lakes up there. We've had a warm up this week, which is okay. Hopefully it'll help melt some of the snow and freeze it back up so we get a little more ice and it's not as deep to walk through. You're able to fish two different lakes in the area for the tournament. The tournament runs like all day, 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which gives you ample time to chase a bite, find a bite, and just move around if you're not having any luck in the spot that you're at. The tournament weighs in or measures out, I guess, because it goes by weight. Biggest bluegill, biggest perch, biggest crappie, biggest pike, and biggest walleye. We've come close to winning the perch before. I was about an inch off on a very nice yellow perch that I caught on a minnow. Sadly, I didn't make the cut, but winners in each category typically get some pretty awesome prizes. They have like a whole ice fishing setup, shanty, chairs, auger, everything, sled, everything. So it's pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to win one. You also get your picture in the paper, which is kind of cool as well. They do have door prizes for everyone else, or most everyone else. They give away some pretty cool stuff. Useful things, some shirts, hats, that type of thing, as well as ice fishing gear and fishing poles and everything like that. It's all donated by businesses who sponsor the event and make it fun for everybody. There's a huge group of people that fish it. It's I easily over 100, I would think. Um, Gets the community involved and people from out of the area. We've noticed people that travel well over 2 hours to fish this tournament, and they have just as much fun as the locals do, which is always cool to see. It's crazy that a small town ice fishing tournament like that brings in such a big crowd from all over the state. I even think there was people last time we fished it from Indiana. So that says something about the type of event that is. I don't know if they're just fishing it because they're up there and they need something to do, or if they actually make the trip specifically for the Snowfest ice tournament. The Friday before, they call it a speed tournament. They get everyone in a circle. I think they drill 50 holes in a circle, and you get a few minutes in each hole, and whoever catches the biggest fish, I think, wins. I'm not sure if they have categories. Never really looked into the rules and regulations, but it looks fun and very intense. I think it goes on for about an hour, maybe two, but it's not that long of a tournament because you only get to fish that specific hole that you're standing over at the time. They rotate and everyone gets a fair chance, I think. But it always seems fun. I just wish I could get up and do it. It's on a Friday, so that makes it kind of hard with work and all that. But maybe one day. Maybe one day. Well, now that deer season is over, or mostly over in a lot of areas, it's time to talk about what do you do with your trail cameras after the season's over? Do you take them down and bring them home and let them rest? And let your spots rest until summer, or do you leave them out all year? Let me know in the comments what you guys do. I typically leave mine out all year if I'm getting good action from deer in the area. If the location's kind of gone dry, I'll take them down and bring them home. But as far as leaving them out, I leave them out because I like to see what's going on in the woods. I like to see what deer have made it. I like to see where the fawns are at. I like to see where the does are at as far as being pregnant and everything. I like to see if bucks are still holding their antlers, and it's always just kind of nice to have a pattern, an idea of some sort of pattern come next October when I'm going to be deer hunting it. It's not bad to scout like that all year, I don't think. It's nice with the cell cameras because you don't have to go out there to make changes to frequency of pictures and how many they take when they take a picture, which is kind of nice. I've always had good luck on battery life too, so I don't really have to do much maintenance until the batteries die, but I'm guessing that won't be for a while yet. I just replaced batteries down in Indiana and our cameras the last weekend we were down there, so it's only been 3 weeks. I'm guessing we'll get to March, hopefully March, maybe April, until we can get back down again and switch out batteries and make some changes. Wintertime's a great time of the year to scout. With snow on the ground, at least here in Michigan, we have snow, and it's easy to find those heavily used deer trails and where the deer are moving and how they're moving through an area, which will be helpful for me in my state land spot because my cameras went dry and I wasn't getting any action from deer on them. I saw a couple people, and every now and then I'd see a deer, but it was nothing like it was last year. They must have changed their patterns, crossing into the woods and getting back to their bedding area from the year before, which is kind of a bummer because the two spots that I had my cameras on state land were very active, and they had bucks and does going through back and forth at most days. And the cameras this year and the trails this year weren't as active. I maybe got a picture of a deer every once a week, it was very disappointing. I think I might go back further into the property and check out what's going on uh, while there's snow on the ground, or I might completely move properties um, and just try something different. There's a huge chunk of land across the street from where I've been hunting that doesn't look like it gets any pressure at all because the parking spot's not on that side of the road. I might head back in there and see where deer are moving and where they're going, what they're doing, and if they're eating. It's an big area of oaks, so I'm sure there's acorns. And with the little warm up, snow has kind of melted and settled a lot, so the ground is way more accessible to them now. You can drive past any cornfield or bean field around here in the evening, and there are deer out in them, which is awesome to see because of the EHD outbreak from earlier this year killed a lot of deer around where I live, and it was pretty devastating. So I don't know if that had anything to do with the lack of deer on my cameras this year, but I'm sure it didn't help. I'm hoping to make a change in that for next year. That being said, I have a few goals in mind for this hunting season, October 2025. I'll go over those in another episode, but I'm very excited to share them with you. I think they're all doable and very rewarding. So we will stay tuned for that one. It's going to be a good one. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the Hunt Fish Live podcast. Before you hit that subscribe button, let me know in the comments what you do with your trail cameras during the off season. Do you leave them out like I do, or do you bring them home to rest? Let me know. Thanks again, everybody.